If you're trying to find balance, you will not want to miss our upcoming information on not just the balance of the yin-yang energy, that masculine and feminine within, but that with everything around you, and how to surf that wave from high to low so you can surrender into expanding and embodying more of what you came here to do, be, and have.
Or you can walk a tightrope.
Hello, everyone. In case we haven't met, my name is Dr. Harmony, and I will help you live fearless, live loved, and live free. If you're new to my channel, welcome. And if you're returning, welcome back. Make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you know when all of my videos and content come live. And today we're going to kind of pick up on a topic that we started last week on twin flame connections and how the balance within creates and connects to the reunion, and how that magnetizes and attracts everything within you, but how the contrast and the complementary within is how we find that balance. So today we're going to pick up on that, as I mentioned, and if you missed that topic, make sure to go back to the video that we'll link above or below or at the end of this, where you can watch last week's video to get caught up, because that is going to explain a little bit more of the scientific connection to that yin and yang concept. And we had the infamous question of trying to figure out if yang was black or yin was black, and Julian and I had been, sharing both of our sides of that, coming from opposite polarities, and the idea of which one was masculine, which one was feminine. And thank you guys that looked that up as well, because the information you provided us with was great. This week, we've been living this out in practical life. And so I want to share with you a little bit about how I've been experiencing exactly what that topic was about. But before we go into that, I would like to share with you an upcoming virtual retreat that we have coming on October 30th on a Saturday. Julian and I will be doing together. You guys have asked for work duly from us. So we had launched that virtual retreat. We have 6 openings still left. It's 8 maximum. And so make sure that you check out how you can get signed up below and all the details of that. But also the really cool thing is, if you get signed up by October 15th for the early bird special, you will get a complimentary 1-hour session with Julian and I included in the package of that. So we look forward to seeing you there. If you have any questions, make sure to put that information below that you would like to know more. So as I mentioned, that we're going to talk a little bit of the practical side of this yin-yang balance and the masculine and feminine energies. And I think the key to sum up what we talked about last week was that the masculine and feminine, you can't have one without the other. You can't have dark without light, and that the yin and yang come from the same source, meaning like it takes both to have the other, or one to have the other. And so interesting thing is, I woke up to a Facebook post that I had made in 2015, so 6 years ago today, that had shown where a friend of mine had gave me a loci bracelet from Hawaii. And the only difference it is between the bracelets we showed last week for the experiment, which make sure to check out that link for that video, is that it's basically where Julian and I have like opposites, where it's all, say, green and one black, and his is all black and one green. Basically, that is kind of like a gray bracelet, and it has a black one on one side and a white one on the other side. Okay, and I didn't have time to find it, or I would have found it just to show you what I was talking about. But it also was kind of plastic. And what the loci bracelet meant, and the interesting thing is, it actually talks about some of the things we talked about last week. So I wanted to read you my post, because this post represents like everything we talked about and what the yin-yang, masculine, feminine energies mean within and then around us, and especially with our beloved, that we have to balance these within to have it with our beloved as well. So So the Lokai bracelet in Hawaii is perfect for balance between the yin and the yang, the masculine and feminine energies. The black bead is mud from the Dead Sea, and on the opposite side, it is white with water from Mount Everest, both being on the exact opposite ends of the earth, representing life to remind us that sometimes when we are at our highest points, to stay humble, and when we are at our lowest points, to have hope. This represents perfect balance within the self. And so now we talked about Julian's highs and lows, high tide, low tide last time, and him being kind of on that bigger, broader scale with that, finding the balance of a lot of chaos or distortion, and can really just surf that wave in a really big waves. My wave, it doesn't take much to tumble over and cause me to fall in, right? You can attest to that. Like, I was talking about him this week because, by the way, my father is kind of on his deathbed again. This time worse than ever, and so we're actually going to be heading back out of town. So any prayers, thoughts for peace, transition would be greatly appreciated during this time. Basically, I'm going through again a lot of things of my childhood and the connection to my parents and how those patterns come up and how we reprogram those and creating new ways to handle and do things. So as we talked about this balance within, one of the biggest keys that I have had with finding balance in chaos is my parents have very chaotic energy. They're not bad people, they're great people. It's an energetic vibration, but their external environment also represents their internal status. So they have a lot of things everywhere and things cluttered and just all these things. And my world has operated from a place of order. And so in that order, even I was telling Julian this, that even when I was like 5 years old, I would find a corner in the house, because at this time they were building a house and I didn't even have my own bedroom. So I found a corner in the house between the refrigerator and a wall that became my order of chaos. And I would set my Barbies up inside of there and they would be, in certain order. And like, it gave me a sense of finding the order within what I needed in that space. That operation has been operating in my patterns for my entire life based on the reflection of my parents and how I was able to manage being in chaos. So I basically went in and find the inner balance. But as now I'm being pulled out even further than ever before, and Julian and I have plans, big plans, to do lots of retreats and be traveling a lot and going all over the world. And I knew this was coming. For me, like that, I want my den. I'm a Leo. Like, give me my den and let me be home for a little while and let me have this order and let me have this peace and, let me find stabilization and then I'll go back out again. And then, so I'm riding this wave of like, let me go and then back up. Let me go and then back up, So, and each time though, I've gotten further, broader and expanded in this and have let go. And I have learned how to live in this chaos more than ever. One of the things with my COVID experience created hypersensitivity, which also put me in this state of an energetic sensitivity and being stimulated from all this vibration. As empaths, we feel this disorder. Like, I don't even want anything under a bed to sleep. I've operated from a place of feng shui for, I don't know, maybe 30 years. And it's all about your external environment and the flow of energy and your homeostasis inside and how that relates to the homeostasis exterior. So I can really balance that. But when, it comes to things that are out of our control, or we're being asked to go and expand and take that leap to the next level, it can be quite overwhelming when you're being asked to like open up, be more, be seen more, and to operate without, like, to be able to operate in dysfunction without being like going into a shutdown. Because I do that a lot. If things are dysfunctional, I shut down and I can't fully operate at the at the level I normally can. And of course, now being married and having Julian with me, I mean, it's perfectly unfolding, but it is also, he's my mirror and my reflection to help me expand to the high tide, low tide. So as we went out of town to visit my parents over the last, we were gone 3 days. We came back to take care of things and we're going back. And, again, I've known this is coming. And I hadn't had a chance to tell you this, Julian, but the bed that I currently have, I purposely did not upgrade it to the kind of bed I wanted because I knew this was temporary space and I knew I'd be traveling and I didn't want to get too accustomed to a bed like I had done before. I had a bed of 20 years before that, I couldn't sleep anywhere. Even now I take my pillow, but it is for neck comfort of a neck injury. So, and it helps me rest better. But one of the things that in this 3 days, I stayed in 3 different beds in 3 different places totally. And my stuff, there's nowhere to put it. There's this stuff everywhere. And I'm telling to Julian, I'm I feel so displaced. I was feeling myself needing to grab my stuff and create a space and get it all organized and find my structure and my balance. And I was feeling myself kind of going into the space of needing the control or let's just say the order, because really it's not as much control as I need order. Well, of course, order, that's what harmony and justice is about, which is my biggest mission, to create harmony and justice. That calls for order, okay? But of course, the Sagittarius and freedom and, wonder and expansion, well, he just lights my fire. And he's making me blaze more. And it's the mirrored reflection still coming in. So I'd like for him to also talk about, 1, what I'm saying in this reflection, 2, his reflection, and sharing how he's managing some of the opposite end of that, of learning how to be expanded in both of those high tide, low tide, but how to bring more balance as he's kind of coming in with that, I'm going out with that, and it creates more of the bigger balance between the two of us and our dynamics. So I'm gonna let him speak.
So I won't necessarily say I'm coming into it. It's more of separation, minor separation. I'm still connected. I'm still aware of the ups and downs, but it's the best analogy I can give you is sea legs, right? If you're a sailor, doesn't matter how hard the waves are hitting, you're walking like you're walking on flat ground.
That's him.
And that's because you just have a higher level of internal balance. And it takes exercise. It takes practice to develop that. It takes time for that to take shape. And honestly, it also requires a realization, which is your environment, you have absolutely no control over it. No matter how much you think you do, you don't. So instead of focusing on controlling external factors, because even if you can temporarily, that's not going to always be the case. You have to work on internal control. That's the big thing. And, there's a lot of approaches to this. Some people do it, achieve it through physical training, some through breathing practices or meditation. Some people diet. There's all these things you can really focus on and get really good at regulating. And once you get good at one, then you can take it to other places. So if you wanted to do that, I would probably say breathing would be the easiest one to start with. But you really have to kind of surrender to the fact that you just don't have control over everything. And so, I was thinking about this, and there's 2 resources that I've used that have helped me quite a bit. One is Serenity Prayer, right?
I just told a client to use that just the other day.
That tends to help quite a bit, although there is something somewhat of the same concept that I use for meditation, and it's the spell of forgiveness. It's a Buddhist spell. It's Ayananda, which is the name of the guy who the treatise that goes into detail about his perspectives and teachings based on this spell. But Ayananda, live in the fullness of emptiness, empty of empty habits, not an empty habitat. Now, in a way, basically what we're trying to say in that is that I can function consciously without getting pulled into habitual patterns, no matter what's going on around me. Basically, I can find stillness within, no matter what the hell's going on. So
he's not kidding.
So one of the things that I actually did a while back, because I went through some sensory readjustment,
which is what I've been going through as well, and he's been helping me with.
And I could hear everything. I mean, I could hear my neighbors through the walls and the floors. I could hear arguments happening down the street, because I was in DC, so city living, all that. And I could just hear everything all the time. But again, like I said, with waves, frequency, everything goes up and down, and it passes a 0 point where there is absolutely nothing happening. That is extremely true for sound. So in order for you to be able to hear, there needs to be a baseline of silence for that acoustic vibration to occur, which means that in any sound, there is an element of silence. So you meditate and focus on hearing that silence. The better you get at it, the broader that silence will become. And it'll be easier to find focus, to keep calm, and just find peace, no matter what's going on. Now, I will admit that I had a bit of an advantage, since my first apartment in college was right next to a firehouse. But with everything, it just takes practice. And, if you live in a chaotic environment, perfect. You've got tons of opportunity for practice. But it's just a matter of going within. And, right now we're, I've been studying, like I said, we've talked about, I've been studying Qigong, getting more and more into yoga, a few other things. And one element of those things talks about using breathing to regulate emotion, right? Your emotional state impacts your breathing pattern. Your breathing pattern can also affect your emotional state. So what I suggest is, next time you're calm or really happy, in a good mood, everything is happening exactly the way you want it to, be aware of how you're breathing. Pay attention to your breath pattern, how much air you're taking in, how subtle or intense your breath is, the amount of expansion you got with each breath. Pay attention to all of that. And then when you're not feeling so hot, replicate it. See how that goes. But the idea with me in general, with my high tides and low tides, is very simple. Extreme acceptance. I accept where I am, wherever I am. And so
And I'm learning.
So it allows me to not worry about controlling external factors, right? Sometimes I can take control, but there's a lot of energy being put out to do that. And you can always achieve so much more when the energy is going inward, because you can basically have that steady state of calm. So even when you're high tide, you can decide, I'm not going to be bouncing off the walls right now. I'm just going to save that energy for when I really do need it. And then put it to use. And the idea again with that is a bit of separation, right? You don't identify with emotions. They happen, you give them space, you listen to them. There's nothing wrong with feeling however you feel. However, that's a temporary state. If you let the wave go and do its thing, it'll subside. It'll go to the other side. But the problem is we tend to hold on to those emotional states, either because you don't want to let go of them, or we just don't understand why this is happening to me. And we get stuck. So, again, my recommendation, breathing exercises. There's tons of videos out there that'll have you have all these complicated ways of breathing and whatnot. But just to get started, I would say singing lessons, a woodwind or brass instrument, or good old fashioned way, just learning how to swim underwater or just hold your breath underwater. These are things you can do anywhere, no matter what your resources are, and a little more straightforward, but there's a lot of good resources out there. But breathing is a good starting point. And like I said, also the reflecting on either the serenity prayer or the spell of emptiness. And you can play this video back, or you can just Google the spell of emptiness, and you'll see it in Buddhist sutras that you can find online. Yeah.
Awesome.
Any
Thank
questions?
You. I may have to watch it. I think I have to watch it again because I was absorbing every bit of it. But still practicing on some of that as well. But as you can tell, he knows his stuff, and it balances out very well, because when you take both of us and those polarities of that, there's so many commonalities and complementaries that it still becomes as a unit so whole and so complete and so balanced, even in all of that. And so we learn to dance in that energy, right? And our energy is dancing, and that helps us within inside of ourselves to see that reflection. So with that being said, make sure that you like, comment, share the shine. Let us know how it impacts you as far as high tide, low tide. I would love to hear how you're managing that. And again, make sure to check out the virtual retreat. We'd love to have you there with us. And we look forward to seeing you in the next video. So may you always face your fears, find freedom, and glow forward on fire. Namaste.
Ciao.